All right, a very good afternoon, all. And today, I begin a new chapter, a prose titled The Ailing Planet, the Green Movement's Role. Now, this is more of an article rather than a prose because this speaks about the health of the earth, which was written by Nani Palkiwala and published in the Indian Express on the 24th of November 1994. And we are doing this in the year 2022. So it's been quite a while, been almost 2 decades since the article has been written, and we know for a fact that the earth is faring no better. And the fight for a greener planet continues. All right, now this is a pretty simple self explanatory article which you, as students of Standard 11, should have no problem comprehending. But still, we will just read through this and see if any further explanation is necessary for the same. So for now, let's just read through the chapter. The Ailing Planet, The Green Movement's Role by Nani Palkiwala. One cannot recall any moment in world history which has gripped the imagination of the entire human race so completely and so rapidly as the Green Movement, which started nearly 25 years ago. In 1972, the world's first nationwide Green Party was founded in New Zealand. Since then, the movement has not looked back. So, this movement, known as the Green Movement, started in the year 1972 in New Zealand. We have shifted one's hope irrecoverably from the mechanistic view to a holistic and ecological view of the world. It is a shift in human perceptions as revolutionary as that introduced by Copernicus, who taught mankind in the 16th century that the Earth and the other planet revolve round the Sun. For the first time in human history, there is a growing worldwide consciousness that the Earth itself is a living organism, an enormous being of which we are parts. It has its own metabolic needs and vital processes, which needs to be respected and preserved. The Earth's vital signs reveal a patient in declining health. We have begun to realize our ethical obligations to be good stewards of the planet and responsible trustees of the legacy to future generations. The concept of sustainable development was popularized in 1987 by the World Commission on Environment and Development. In its report, it defined the idea as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. That is, without stripping the natural world of resources future generations would need. So it talks more about sustainability, all right? We use only what is required to us and we leave some for the future generations as well. Let us not be the last generation to deplete Earth of all its resources. Let us not be that person because of whom Earth will cease to exist and there will be nothing left for the future generations to come. That is what sustainable development is all about. Already using sustain whatever, like it should, the people, the coming generation should have ample resources for their use as well. And this idea, this concept came into being as early as 1987. In the zoo at Lusaka, Zambia, there is a cage where the notice reads, "The world's most dangerous animal." Inside the cage, there is no animal but a mirror where you see yourself. Thanks to the effort of a number of agencies in different countries, a new awareness has now dawned upon the most dangerous animal in the world. He has realized the wisdom of shifting from a system based on domination to one based on partnership. Right? In fact, we are so dangerous to the earth that in Zambia, in a zoo, there is a cage outside of which it reads, Inside is the most dangerous animal, and when you look inside, you just see yourself because inside the cage there's nothing else but a mirror. And we as humans have slowly realized that yes, we indeed are the devastators of Earth, that we need to keep our greed in check. And instead of being the dominant being of Earth, we should learn about partnership. We should learn how to coexist peacefully with nature. Scientists have catalogued about 1.4 million living species of with which mankind shares the earth. So there are 14 million, 1.4 meaning 14 lakhs, all right? 14 lakh और species पड़ा है, we are just one. Imagine that. Estimates vary widely as regards as the still uncatalogued living species. Biologists reckon that about 3 to 100 million living species still languish unnamed in anonymous darkness. And ये 14 lakhs जुन चाहिँ भन्दछ त्यो त उनीहरूले स्टडी गरेको मात्रै हो अहिलेसम्म. Still, there are 100 million other organisms which we haven't even found yet, which we even haven't named yet. So you can see how insignificant we are as human beings, and yet we are the dominant one and continue to be so, all because of our greed. One of the early international commissions which dealt inter alia with the question of ecology and environment was the Brand Commission, which had the distinguished Indian as one of its members, Mr. L.K. Jha. The first Brand report raised the question: are we to leave our successors a scorched planet of advancing deserts, impoverished landscapes, and ailing environment? So, there was a commission, and in that commission, there was an Indian man named Mr. L.K. Jha, and he presented a report where he talked: are we leaving nothing for the future generations? Are we just leaving deserts and impoverished landscapes? What are we doing about the upcoming generations? What are we leaving them? Mr. Lester R. Brown, in his thoughtful book, The Global Economic Prospect, points out that the Earth's principal biological system are four: fisheries, forests, grasslands, and croplands, and they form the foundation of the global economic system. In addition to supplying our food, these four systems provide virtually all the raw materials for industry except minerals and petroleum derived synthetics. In large areas of the world, human claims on these systems are reaching an unsustainable level, a point where their productivity is being impaired. When this happens, fisheries collapse, forests disappear, grasslands are converted into barren wastelands, and croplands deteriorate. In a protein conscious and protein hungry world, overfishing is common every day. In poor countries, local forests are being decimated in order to procure firewood for cooking. In some places, firewood has become so expensive that what goes under the pot now costs more than what goes inside of it. Since the tropical forest is, in the words of Dr. Myers, the powerhouse of evolution, several species of life face extinction as a result of its destruction. So, according to a leading economist, or rather, according to a study conducted by Mr. Lester R. Brown in his book titled The Global Economic Prospect, he talks as how Earth is principally and biologically divided into four parts: fisheries, forests, grasslands, and croplands, and how each one is being affected. All right, people in search of protein are overfishing. Some countries are so poor they cut forests for firewood. In other places, firewood is so expensive that it is more expensive than the food that it is actually cooking. And when forests and fisheries are affected, so is wildlife, because they cannot live outside the jungles. They are dependent on wildlife, on nature to take care of them. So everyone is getting affected in that way. It has been well said that the forests precede mankind, deserts follow. The world's ancient patrimony of tropical forest is now eroding at the rate of 40 to 50 million acres a year. and the growing use of dung for burning deprives the soil of an important natural fertilizer. World Bank estimates that a five-fold increase in the rate of planting is needed to cope up with the expected fuel wood demand in the year 2000. So this was like almost 21 years back. World Bank said that the forest cover has to be increased fivefold just to meet the demand, all right, not excess but to meet the demand. And now it's 21 years later, so you can very well imagine the condition at this present moment as we are reading this. James Pett, the president of the World Resources Institute, said the other day, we were saying that we are losing the forest an acre a second, but it is much closer to acre and a half to a second. So we are losing an acre. You know how large an acre is, right? So every second we are losing more than an acre of forest. That is how fast the forest covers are depleting. Article 48A of the Constitution of India provides that the state shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. But what causes endless anguish is the fact that laws are never respected nor enforced in India. For instance, the Constitution says that casteism, untouchability, and bonded labor shall be abolished, but they flourish shamelessly even after 44 years of operation of the Constitution. A recent report of our Parliament Estimate Committee has highlighted the near catastrophic depletion of Indian forest in the last 4 decades. India, according to reliable data, is losing its forest at the rate of 3.7 million acres a year. Large areas officially designated as forest lands are already virtually treeless. The actual loss of forest is estimated to be about 8 times the rate indicated by government statistics. So there is even an act in the Constitution 48A which talks about safeguard of the forest. But then our nation does not even respect the other laws meant for human, where it talks about no casteism, there shall be no different untouchability. Untouchability is abolished, and yet we see it being practiced rampantly throughout the nation. So if the human beings, the citizens of India, are not respected, are not protected by the Constitution, how can we expect the same Constitution to safeguard trees and forest? And so there has been rampant deforestation, wherein upon millions and millions of acres of land, forest land, is being depleted. A 3 year study using satellites and aerial photography conducted by the United Nations warns that the environment has deteriorated so badly that it is critical in many of the 88 countries investigated. There can be no doubt that the growth of world population is one of the strongest factors distorting the future of human society. It took mankind more than a million years to reach the first billion. That was the world population around the year 1800. But the year 1900, a second billion was added. Then the 20th century has added another 3.7 billion. The present world population is estimated at 5.7 billion. Every 4 days, the world population increases by 1 million. So, no doubt, human population is one of the causes for the depletion of forest, wherein human beings took more than a million years to reach the first billion. It took only 1,000 years to reach another billion. And by the end of the 20th century, we had a strong 5.7 billion, wherein every 4 days another 1 million human beings are added. Now, 1 million is equal to 10 lakhs, all right? Fertility, and we know that even India is a country with a population of more than 1 billion. Yeah? We are like 100 crore plus. So, our country itself has more than 1 billion population, more than 1 billion people in population, second only to China. Fertility falls as incomes rises. Education spreads and health improves. Thus, development is the best contraceptive. The development itself may not be possible if the present increase in numbers continues. The rich get richer, the poor beget children, which condemns them to remain poor. More children does not mean more workers, merely more people without work. It is not suggested that human beings be treated like cattle and compulsorily sterilized, but there's no alternative to voluntary family planning without introducing an element of coercion. The choice is really between control of population and perpetuation of poverty. The population of India is estimated to be 922 million. And that means around 92 crores. Today, more than the entire population of Africa and South America put together. No one familiar with the condition in India would doubt that the hope of the people would die in the hungry hutments unless population control is given topmost priority. So, for a country like ours in India, where the rich get poorer and the poor just gets even more poor, one of the key solutions is the checking of overpopulation and following contraceptives, because it seems that our nation is being eaten by us, right? The overpopulating majority who do not lead a hand in the welfare of the nation, and they are just hungry mouths to feed. All right? It may sound cruel to say that we need to limit our population because most of the population is useless, but then the resources can support only so much. And so the number one priority is population control. For the first time in human history, we see a transcending concern. The survival not just of the people but of the planet. Now we have gone beyond our survival. Right? We have gone beyond that. I will look only for myself. I will be on the lookout only for. No, we cannot do that. If there is no planet, there is no looking out for yourself as well. So we have to look at the bigger picture. The environmental problem does not necessarily signal our demise. Right? It does not show that okay, environment is gone, we'll die. No, it is the passport for the future. The emerging New World vision has ushered in the era of responsibility. It is a holistic view, an ecological view, seeing the world as an integrated whole rather than disassociated collection of parts. It is not for us. We have enough resources to last for our lifetime, right? But what about the upcoming future generation? What example will we set out of us for them? So that is the question being asked at the moment. Industry has a most crucial role to play in this new era of responsibility. What a transformation would be effected if more businessmen shared the view of Chairman of DuPont, Mr. Edgar S. Woolard, who 5 years ago declared himself to be the company's chief environmental officer. He said, our continued existence as a leading manufacturer requires that we excel in environmental performance. Of all the statements made by Margaret Thatcher during the years of her prime ministership, none has passed so decisively into the current coin of English usage as her fallacious words, no generation has a freehold on this earth. All we have is a life tenancy with a full repairing lease. In the words of Mr. Lester Brown, we have not inherited this earth from our forefathers. We have borrowed it from our children. So, these are the few individuals who can make a change, who are in a position of power and they have decided to do the right thing with the message that we are only tenants of the earth. We are not owners. We have not got this earth from our forefathers. We have simply borrowed it from the future generation. So we have to make sure that when we pass this on to our future generation, we leave them something which they can look up to us for and not blame us for the end of the human race. All right, a very simple article which was printed in the Indian Express. And with this, we end this chapter. And following class, I'll send you the summary and the assignments for the same. Take care, stay home, and stay safe.